understand, some of you may not understand. Don't worry. It will become clearer when we do the flip class on Monday. Okay? When I do the forward pass, the backward pass, the critical path, then you will understand more about network diagram. Today, if I had covered, it would have been overwhelming. I know that. Okay? So, yeah. And the diagram is a bit scary, right? So let me share this. Let me walk you through the assignment. That I can definitely do, right? Okay. I got some messages. Let me see what other messages came up. Some other message, yeah. The assignment to you. See, if anyone has got more than if I have marked and if you have got a pass grade, no one need to. Yeah, it's a pass grade. Anything 70 and above is pass grade. There is no compulsion, there is no pressure on you to resubmit if you have got 70 and above. Okay? Hope I answered the question. I forgot. That's why probably the grade is also not 100 yet. So, okay, let's go through this. I am sharing. I hope you can see my screen. Let me clear all the chat windows which is blocking my view, your view rather. Okay. Now I'm into the LMS, right? So let's go through the LMS. Assignment 3. This is just a heads up. If you can't follow 100%, don't worry about it. To the extent you can follow, please follow. It will become clearer on Monday during the flip class. Okay. See, I didn't cover the topic in the flip class. So, but I'm going to, at the request of Alex Lim, I'm going to cover. I just walk you through the assignment. Just pay attention to it, and then if you can't understand, don't worry about it. But just I will explain the assignment 3 so that you know what it is at least. Okay. With that preamble, I'm going to go ahead. It says exercise 3, sequencing activities and creating network diagram. For example, assume we are to construct a pump station. The project is to create a pump station. Okay. Figure 1 lists the project activities. Remember all the activities we said? We will get it from WBS. Once you break down the work package into one child level, you will get a list of activities. So if you look at this activity number, activity in the table below, there are what? How many activities? There are 18 activities listed, correct? Only 18 activities are listed. Oh, the number is a bit more, so don't get bogged down by the number. Let us not worry about the number of activities. Yeah. The duration of list the project. Okay. Identified in the work breakdown structure. See, from the WBS only you create these activities, and someone has listed them in a beautiful table. What is this activity number? This is the WBS or the activity identified. In this case, it will be activity identifier. I'll explain the table itself first. Activity description is the name of the activity. Okay, like apply paint, apply primer, scrap the wall, do the installation work, construct the wall, apply cement, apply plaster, apply painting, apply create landscape, etc. All those are activities. Now, what is it? You have duration in days. Okay, what is duration? Is a project duration. What it says, start has got a 0 duration. That means it's a milestone. When there is no duration, it's just a flagging off. There is no time required for flagging off, right? That activity itself is not going to take time. It's a marking of an event, starting or ending. It's a milestone. Now, there is some activity called mobilize. Let's not go too deep into what that activity means. There is some, it's a technical activity. This is for only people who are in the field of pump station. So I don't think none of us in this session are in a pump station. But as PMI is industry agnostic, this example should still be relevant for us from a learning perspective. Mobilize has got a duration of 2 days. What does it mean? It means the activity called mobilize will need 2 full days for completion. Similarly, we'll move on to the next activity is survey. We don't know whatever survey it is, soil survey or whatever, that takes 1 day. Okay. grade site. Once they have surveyed, they want to do the grade site. It takes 2 days. So trench footings, some digging, excavation of the earth, 5 days. Form and pour concrete. So concrete mixture is created and poured into whatever it is. That takes 5 days. Pure concrete and so on. I'm not going to go through each activity. Just to let you know what this duration days means, that it associates with the number of days that the activity needs to complete. Now, remember, we talked about preceding activity or predecessor activity. They are the same. Preceding activity or predecessor activity both mean the same. Now, for start, is there a predecessor activity? There is nothing. That's why the column is blank. For mobilize, the preceding activity is 1. And what is activity number 1? You have to go into the table. This is activity number 1, which is start. Okay, let's say the formal logical start is when the mobilize will start working. But if you go down, survey, the activity called survey, the preceding activity is 2. Means 2 has to complete for this activity survey to start. So what is a mandatory dependency? If you can relate back to that slide where I showed you mandatory dependency, it tells you survey activity, the activity, the task, the work, the job of doing the survey will require 1 day to complete, but it can start only when 2 is completed, because 2 is a predecessor. Before survey, you need to do mobilize activity. Okay, so if you didn't do mobilize activity, for example, let us say the person who is doing mobilize activity is on MC. If he or she is on MC for 2 days, mobilize activity would not have been started, right? It will start only on the 3rd day. So survey cannot start on the 3rd day. It will wait for the mobilize activity to complete, only then it can start. Is that clear? Preceding activity, do you understand what is preceding activity? The preceding activity for testing and software application is that you should have the code written. The preceding activity for installing OS, operating system, in a server will be that the server must have been delivered. Okay, the preceding activity for installing applications, like if you want to install Microsoft Office, Excel, PowerPoint, or any other application, you should have the server. You should also have the OS, right? If there is no OS on the server, can you load your application? So the preceding activity for Microsoft Office installation will be the OS installation, the operating system of the server. And preceding activity for the OS installation is delivery of the server by the vendor. Yeah, it is sequence. Yeah, it is absolutely sequence. Exactly. This is a sequence. That is why now, exactly, you said it right. Thanks, Thomas. The sequence is what we are going to apply in the network diagram. You have got the pattern already. So now do you understand what is preceding activity? Now you could technically have one more column here called the successor activity also, right? Just for the table to be complete. I'm not complicating, but just understand. So if you had something called successor activity, whatever the following activity with that activity number will come up. I'm not confusing, I'm not complicating, but I'm just giving you the extrapolation just in case some of you are wondering, hey, what about the successor activity? Yes, that table could have had. Here the author has chosen not to put the table, that column in the table. That's fine. So now let's go back to this. The duration of each activity was identified. Okay. How did you identify the duration, the number of days? Each was identified in estimating process. Okay. They estimated the duration. During that estimate duration process, they came out with this number 2, 1, 2, 5, 5 for each activity. They would have done all the homework, right? And subject matter experts would have been working on this. And the preceding activities were determined in the logical process of sequencing the activities. Thomas, this is where your comment or your observation is very apt, right? So you have a sequencing activity. If you look at that overview chart, we said sequence activities. Remember, that is the sequence activities. Okay. figure 2 shows the planned sequence of steps and interdependencies. Let's go into. Okay, Isan, you are asking me a question, why activity 6 preceding is 5 and 8? We will see that. That is the nature of the activity. It can be, you don't go by numeral, don't go by the logic of number. These are not serial numbers. These are activity numbers, activity identifier. IC card, IC number. Sometimes two applicants will submit their application. One might have submitted 2 days later, but his application could have got processed earlier. So he may have a prior IC number. So we don't worry about we don't see any logic or reasoning in the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, except that they are unique numbers. They are unique to each of the activity that is being said. Yeah, okay, now that's where I think we should go down, and then I think if you can open up your respective diagrams, I can't show both of them simultaneously. It's very difficult. Now I have gone into the network diagram. So at your screen, if you can see, you open up this table, right? Then you can correlate with the diagram that I'm flashing. We can't do both simultaneously. Yeah, I can't flash it simultaneously. That's what I'm saying. Now what do you see? Start. This is activity 1. This number here, though it is small, yeah, I hope you can see this number here. It's quite small. We try to expand it. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me download this, then it's easier for me to because I'm opening it from LMS. It's very, very difficult for you to see. Let me download it, then I think I can open it from PDF. Unshare this, then very difficult. Let me open the document. Hello. Successfully. Now let me share this. Probably it will be easier for you to relate to this because I was running it from the LMS. We had visibility issues. Now let me look at it here. Okay. Now I think it must be clear. Now if you see the screen, right, let's go down. I will have the network diagram at your respective desk. Please have the table so that you can relate to what you see on your screen and what the diagram is. If you look at start, this is 1, right? This 1 is what? This 1 is the activity identifier. So it follows the table. Okay, that's simple. Why is it 0 duration? Because it's only a milestone. There's no work. The start and end activities are milestone. They are simply milestones. They mark a certain event. There's no work to be done. No one is allocated the work called start or end. That means no work to be done. We say, okay, we start on 25th of March at 10 a.m. is at 10 a.m. That's a flag. Okay. So that's what it is. Start. Now let's go to mobilize. We saw that its activity number is 2. So that's what it is. The duration is 2 days from the table above. How did we get the 2 days? From the estimate activity duration process. Okay. Now if you go up the table, I have to navigate. Now let's look at the third activity number 3 called survey. What is the preceding activity? 2. 2 is what? Mobilize. So survey will come immediately after mobilize. That's what the diagram tells you. Can you see that? Survey is after mobilize. There can be other activities. We will not go to grade site and all. Now mobilize must finish for survey to start. Is that okay? And survey has got an activity number 3 and its duration is 1 day. It's just referencing it from the table. Now let's go back to the table to understand the next branch. What is 4? Fourth activity number is grade site, right? There's some activity called grade site. It has got a duration of 2 days. And does it have a preceding activity? Yes, it has a preceding activity. Again, it is 2, right? So the preceding activity is 2. 2 means what? Mobilize. So you have to see the arrow. It will come from mobilize. Mobilize from there onwards, there's an arrow to the grade site. Can you see that? Now, this is what the table is translating into a diagram. I hope you can relate to it. Now, because the activity number 2, mobilize, is a predecessor to grade site, that is why you see this arrow. The arrow will come from a predecessor and end in the activity. You see the head of the arrow comes to the next following activity, succeeding activity. So if you look at it, mobilize is the predecessor, survey is the successor activity. In the second case, mobilize also is the predecessor, grade site is a successor activity. Now if I move on from survey to trench footing, survey is a predecessor or preceding activity to trench footing. Can you see that? Likewise, trench footing depends on survey to complete and grade site to complete for trench footings to start. This is like, if I can relate back to your the running race example, I said finish to finish. Remember, someone was asking. I said for the race to finish, you must, the winner, the first person must finish touching the ribbon. So assume survey is finish touching the ribbon and grade site is finish the race, complete the race. And then only you will give prize, right? You will allocate the trophy, right? So this trench footing is similar to allocating the trophy. Can you allocate, can you give the prize, the trophy to the winner without the race completing and without finishing touching the race, the ribbon, finish ribbon? So both these activities are important are for a finish to finish relationship, the trench footing. Okay, and let's go to the table and see what is the trench footing. We didn't see in the table. Now if you see the trench footing in the table, it's got its own activity number, which is activity number 5. Okay, it's got a duration of 5 days, so we'll just put the number 5 there in the duration box. And then you see preceding activity 3 and 4, double dependency. 2 activities must finish for this activity to start. Can you see that? That is why there is arrow from 3 and 4 into 5. Can you see this? The 3 is sending one arrow, 4 is also sending one arrow to 5. Survey must complete, grade site must complete. Both must complete for trench footings to start. If one completed, the other is still work in progress, trench footings cannot start. That's the nature of activities. Okay? So far so good? Now, similarly, it will go to 6, right? This is an extrapolation of that. Now, if you look at 6, form and 4 complete, now this fellow has got 2 predecessors, 5 and 8. So, arrow 5, that, activity number 5 will send an arrow to form and 4 complete. Activity number 8 will also send, okay? Now, you may ask, hey, we have not come to 8. Just wait, it's an iterative process, right? This is all intertwined process. This is initially when they do, they will not put 8. But when they do 8, they will ask the question, hey, for 8, what needs to be completed? Or what is the successor activity, right? If 8 is as a predecessor activity for 6, for 8 it will be a succeeding activity. So, look, 6. Now let's focus on these activities. We will focus on 6, activity 6. We'll also see how the arrows pan out 5 and 8. Okay, let's go down. This is activity 6, form and 4 complete. Can you see that? This is, yeah. Now, we said 6 has got 5 and 8 as predecessors, right? So 5 is sending an arrow. This fellow 8 is also sending an arrow. Can you see that? Don't worry about the numbers. They are not in sequence number. They are not serial numbers. Yes, pure activity numbers. It's just a label given in the table. We don't go and challenge or question the rationale of it. It is the way it is designed. But as long as you can form the network diagram, we should have no issues, isn't it? So if you look at it, now before I can put 8, I have to go and start 8, right? So there can be this back and throw, right? So maybe when you're doing 5, you'll just put a box here and put in a blank column 8, and then you will go to C8 and then fill up the 8. This is a complex example. The assignment given to you is not this complex, mark my word. Okay, do you follow this diagram? Any questions at this point in time? So the question here is, do we need to do a network diagram first before sequencing? The sequencing, no. The network diagram will follow the sequence. You cannot see in a network diagram, you have to mark which is parallel, which are parallel, right, and which are dependent, mandatory dependent. So for you to understand, you have to refer the dependency table. That is why this is the dependency, right? When you say preceding activity, it is showing your mandatory dependency. What this box tells you, this column tells you is the for mobilize, the predecessor is 1, which means start has to happen first, then only mobilize can happen. Likewise, for survey, the preceding activity is 2, and what is 2? 2 is mobilize. Mobilize must complete for survey to act. So when you say preceding activity, that preceding activity will feed the arrow. The link will come from the preceding activity to the succeeding activity. It's always the preceding activity, and the arrowhead will touch the succeeding activity or successor activity. So we need to get the dependency right. Only if we get the dependency, which is preceding activities dependency, mandatory dependency. Okay, as I mentioned, thanks Wei Hong for that feedback. And then Aisan, is it clear? This table will drive that. But if you, the assignment that we are going to see is much simpler. Now, I want to stop here for a minute so that we don't get into too much complexity, because assignment is much simpler. Let's look at the, so this is what the given case study, right? Now let's go to the assignment per se. What is the work you need to do? Much simpler and compared to the pump station. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed by the pump station example. That's why I said I'll take a pause. Let's see. I just wanted you to get an introduction because there's a network diagram. If you look at activity 1, you will know the network diagram. The network diagram has to come from, and it is not rocket science. Some of you get it wrong, doesn't matter. We will revisit it, okay? I don't want you guys to get stressed. From the morning, I get that some of you are getting stressed. Don't do that, please. And believe me when I say it's a collaborative environment. Now, let's read this activity 1. Roger and Susan have decided to make a sales representation to the company PC. Okay, they have to make a sales presentation. Very simple task, right? Let's see that. For each of the activity listed in figure 3 below, first, so the first task for you is first determine the preceding activity. This is talking, Isan, this is again telling you, just pointing to the question you asked, you have to determine the mandatory nature of the activities first. That is why you have to fill in the preceding activity column here first. And so first you draw the, so you have to fill up the preceding activity. Let us see that. Then draw a network diagram and prepare the schedule. Okay, network diagram is the schedule. Note, plan for some activities to be done in parallel. It's giving you an idea that not every activity should be mandatorily dependent, as in arrow to arrow to arrow. Have some in parallel activities also, which means they can start simultaneously. Just to get you the feel of both mandatory dependent activities and functionally dependent activities. That is why they say plan for some activities to be done in parallel. Okay. Now let us see this diagram. Now this is not activities, right? Very simple thing, right? Unlike the pump station where you had 18 activities, which is very common for learners at your stage. Now, 5 activities. Is making, I'm getting a noise from somewhere. Can I request you? I don't know who's. Okay, I think Aikal, I'm going to. Oh, not even. Okay, I think the noise has stopped. Thank you very much for muting at your end. Okay, now let's look at this, right? Now you need to have a pencil and paper or pencil and pen, paper and pen to sort of try it out, trial and error. Now first activity is decide to make presentation. Oh, responsible. Okay, this column you can actually ignore because you don't need it. Okay, they have given it for completeness. Duration is 2 days. Note that there is no start and end here. Like the pump station, there is no start and end. If you want to put start and end, it's your choice. If you don't put start and end, no problem, because there is no, it's only a milestone, it's not an activity. So if you miss an activity, we have a problem. Milestones, whether you put it, it doesn't impact your schedule network diagram. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Now, activity 1 is clearly designed to make presentation. Now let's look at the activities. Arrange appointments with the who? Arrange appointments with the audience, right? Whoever is going to listen to your presentation, right? And then you have to work on the presentation. As a prep work, you have to do collect sales data, correct? And then once you have sales data, you have to slice it, dice it. You have to make meaningful information out of it, correct? So you will actually populate your PowerPoint slides, correct? And then on some day you go and make an actual presentation. Now it's a very simple list of activities. This person responsible column, not very relevant. Don't bother too much about it. Okay, it's just given for you will not need it in the network diagram. That's what I'm saying. In the previous diagram, have they given you person responsible? No. It's just the name of activity, this activity number, activity identifier, or the number of and the number of duration, and the arrows. Now arrows, preceding activity. What is the preceding activity for decide to make presentation? You have to decide. You get a clue from the first one. Is that when you decide, do you think it's a first activity? That's a call you want to make. I don't want to give all the answers now. Have some fun to do it, please. But if you force me to do it, I'll give it to you. That's your problem. Okay? Please. Arrange appointments. Now, what is the logical sequence? Will you arrange appointments before deciding or after deciding? Is it mandatory dependency? That means, should you arrange appointments only after you have taken a decision? If you didn't take a decision to make the presentation, will you go ahead and do arrange appointments? That's a clue. Yeah. And then collect sales data. Does collect sales data have any dependency on arrange appointments? And once you collect sales data, can you is prepare presentation dependent on sales data? What are you going to present? You're going to present the sales data, right? So if you didn't have collect sales data, if you didn't gather the sales data, can you do your PowerPoint presentation? And to make presentation, what are the preceding activities? If you're on the day you're going and making a presentation to your audience, what are the dependencies for this? Simple. Okay. Any questions? It's a very simple diagram, my friends. You just try it. I'm happy that they gave you a complex example so that it makes this job much simpler. sequence get wrong, we will discuss it. This question is so simple, I can't give you the answer. If I have given the answer, you cannot give me any different answer. Is that clear? Is it overwhelming, this example?
Need to go through it step by step, sir.
You want me to repeat? I can repeat, no problem.
No need, no need. I just need to self-study it and go through it.
Okay, I get your point. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. It's quite a little. See. Now I have been doing the talking, right? So you have been just following what I thought. Now, if you in some time, 15-20 minutes, you just understand. My suggestion would be, please go through. You don't have to go through all the 18 activities of the sampling diagram. Go through the first 6 or 7 as we went through together, and when you do it on your own, you will be able to interrelate with the diagram. Always remember this arrow that you see from 2 to 3 goes from preceding activity to succeeding activity. That's the only thing you need to remember while putting the arrow. The arrowhead must sit on the succeeding activity.
Sir,
Yes.
so we do this in PowerPoint also.
And no problem. PowerPoint, Excel, Word. I don't bother about the document that you use. It's okay. What is
Draw, take picture, give you.
Sorry?
Draw, take picture, give you.
Raw picture. I didn't get it. Sorry.
Draw pictures, take a picture.
Draw pictures and take photo. Okay. I don't mind.
It's okay, na?
Yeah. What's wrong?
Okay.
You are demonstrating the learning, right? See, substance over form.
True.
The form is not important. Learning is important. You're surprised, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Write it on a pen and make it legible, right? That's all I can say. Make it clear, legible. That's okay.
Yes, sir, anything that we are comfortable with.
Yeah. See, as I said, the focus is on your learning. Whether you draw it on paper, whether you draw it on Excel, you are doing the work and you are learning. That learning is very important.
Right, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. No problem. You put, draw it in a pencil, paper, and then take a photo and paste it on the Word. You have to paste it in some Word document, or don't put JPEG. Sometimes that system doesn't open. If you can paste, if you're doing a pencil drawing, paste it in a Word document or in a PowerPoint document, so that it's easier to navigate. Last time I had issues. Some documents I could not open. The formats were very different. So use common document types like your PowerPoint, Excel, Word. I'm fine. I should be able to open it. That's all.
Sir, this milestone, how do we join everything?
Milestone. Okay, very good question. Milestone. Okay. Here, if you see, right, if there was no milestone, let me answer your question with an example. If this milestone were not there, this start milestone was not there in this example diagram, you would have put this mobilize, config, specification, prefab metal, all this in as one line. They were all be starting. Just imagine this diagram. If you knock off the start, and once you knock off the start milestone, you can knock off the arrows. That's how the diagram will be, and the diagram is perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Milestones have zero duration and are just an event, a snapshot in the life cycle of a project. If you put it, then give some logical structure. If you didn't put it, diagram is not wrong. Your choice. In the example that I have given, you can choose to put start and then zero duration. Remember to put zero duration, please. If you think that is comfortable because you are following the example. If that is your comfort level, please follow the example. If you say, hey, I'm not going to put start and end because it's not given in the table, that's fine as well. in a network diagram, we are focusing on the duration. And since milestones have zero duration, they don't contribute to the duration. Whether they are there, whether they are not there, doesn't matter. Yeah, free format, raw, that's fine. PowerPoint, Excel. Use the tool that you are comfortable with. Okay? Yeah, thanks for that confirmation. I think the time is just nice, 4:59. Okay. Thanks. Who was that? Alex Lim asks. Thank you for raising it.
Sir, I got one more question. Just short one.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the start and end milestone, right? If let's say we were to put it, so for the activity number, we put what? Already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we
Put 0 lah. Activity number 0 and 6.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't matter.
Right, thank you.
Or you can simply put S and D also, no activity number. That's fine also, no problem. Or you can give the activity number itself as for this academic exercise. Okay, anyone has got any questions on this? We should all thank Alex Lim for asking me to run through the assignment 3, exercise 3, because I think he wants to do it over the weekend, so he wants to get the sneak preview in advance. It's very proactive.
Sir, may I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, sir. So I think the best way is what? Before the assignment, we should now you just explain the assignment 3, right? So at least you talk about assignment 3, we know what to do,
Okay, noted, Alex Lim. We will have that for 4, 5, and 6. We'll follow that.
Yeah, that will be better, because if not, we just read the assignment, we don't know what we need,
Feedback well taken. I do this for the other class. I don't know why I forgot to do it because much later. The other class that I take, for every IU1 there is an assignment. So that's here the assignment is coming much lower. Probably that includes my thought. Not an issue. We'll do that.
Yeah, because just now you said that Monday we have to submit at night, then we don't.
No stress. I said if you can't submit that.
Stress.
Hey, I said it's not hard cast in stone lah.
Yeah, because we still have other things to do. Saturday, Sunday, I have other things to do. I don't have much time, so I need to